Hello, one and all. Welcome to another episode of Baggers Chat. My name is Mitch Pattinson, and as always, I'm joined by Ethan Daffy. And of course, today is the big clash: Carlton v Gold Coast at the MCG. Daffy boy, what an absolute blockbuster! Of course, round 14 this week, Sunday, 18th of June, 1:10 at the MCG. I'm expecting a absolute maximum capacity of 23,000 supporters at the MCG, Daffy boy. No, mate, to be serious, it should be a solid game because Gold Coast are in quite good form. But once again, it's another chance for us to see if we can see some sort of a rejuvenation from our players. But Daffy boy, how are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. I think it is the first time I've versed the Gold Coast at the MCG. Obviously, we've only versed them at Marvel and been kind of mixed against the Gold Coast. They've never been a team we really like to play, I don't think. In the past, obviously, it's led to a few sackings, I reckon, especially Ratton getting sacked in 2012. I think losing to them, I think they finished on the bottom and that was their third win of the season or something, and they beat us over there. And that's when the whole club went to shambles, I think. Probably that point obviously led to the whole Mick Malthouse fucking bringing him in and ruin our club. So, no, I'm excited. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I was thinking about, the footy season when it's done, it feels like such a long wait. So people are already thinking about next year, but I think right now you've just got to enjoy your footy, try and enjoy the footy for the next 10 weeks and see what happens because you never know. But, I feel like, during that cricket season and you get to about Jan, you go, geez, I just want the footy to start. Well, we're in footy season right now. So obviously it's hard to enjoy while we're, playing pretty poorly, but just got to try and, rock up to games and get excited.
Spot on. So, I mean, of course, there is an extra round in the season. So I think from now, there is 10 games left in the season that for us. Of course, not including the bye, because I think we have our bye next week, of course. Maybe it's the week after. Yeah, so next week.
Next week.
Yeah, and then we play Hawthorn. So, are you saying there's some sort of a chance, Daffy boy, of a finals of the Blue Baggers being seen in the finals, Daffy boy?
No, I'm ruling that out. We can't. No, and we were saying it just before. We got to win 8 or 9 games, probably 9, really to really make it this year. But it just frustrates me. We've picked the wrong year to be bad. I think if we played the way we did last year, we'd be making the 8 easily. Because I think teams are dropping a lot of games around that 8 to 11 kind of area with like Freo and Geelong and teams around there, especially Adelaide as well. They can't win a game away, but they win every game at home. Because I feel last year it was quite a little bit more tighter up at the top. But of course, this year we're playing putridly and we're rivaling the likes of North Melbourne and West Coast.
Like as you said, because even last year, if we were to beat Collingwood, I think we would have played them in the elimination final the week after, or something to do with
it was a draw.
It was a draw. Yes, that's right. Yes. So, and then if we were to win, we would have played Brisbane in the elimination final. I think it was something like that, which is unbelievable to think about because, like now, probably the 4 genuine teams this year are Collingwood, Port Adelaide, Melbourne, and Brisbane, and they're the top 4. And behind that, it's St Kilda, Essendon, Adelaide, Western Bulldogs, Geelong, Fremantle, and there's not a whole lot there, and also there's not a whole lot between. I mean, there is quite a distance between 3rd place and even like a 7th place. When say this time last year, if the 9th place team, if they were to win, they could have had a chance for top 4. Like that's how the season was kind of playing out. But yeah, like as you said, I think it's just another. I think right now we kind of have nothing to play for, but we also do because we have to save our coach.
Always.
And then I think I'll show the clip of David King just quickly.
And I understand that if you just want to look at the win-loss sheet, which in the end is the thing that hires and fires, I get that. But if that's all you're looking at, then you're going to bounce around and change with the breeze every 2 weeks. I think you've got to be better than that. I think you've got to look deeper than that. If you're going to comment on the game, actually invest in what's happening. What he created, Vossi, and his job, in my opinion, game day, is to create the method, the opportunity to win that given game of footy. So a lot of things go into that. Selection, the tinkering of your standard plan, to have a plan that can win you games, and then to make adjustments along the way. So in the end, whether you like it or not, Michael Voss created a team that won 17 more contested possessions, won 3 more around the ground clearances, and 15 more inside 50s than their opposition. Now, I don't know what more you can do than that.
And I completely agree with what he was saying, because I reckon he is doing his job game day. He's giving the players the opportunity to go out and do their role, but they're just not fulfilling their role. They're not doing their role. They aren't converting with their disposal. They're not converting with their scoring shots. So I completely agree with what David King's saying. I am now starting to believe that the problem isn't the coach. As I've always said, that the stats don't lie. And we're pretty much getting the opportunities to go, like, yes, we aren't kicking great, and that might rely on the coaches, but also if we're kicking 6 goals, 16, that with what we saw last week, that's not like we are getting the right shots at goal. It's just, and whether it is down to we're taking too many shots from outside 50 and bombing them inside 50, there's one side of the spectrum where that's the player's choice to go for the goal, or it's the other side of the spectrum where the coaches are saying, if you're outside 50, you go for goal. But they wouldn't be saying that. That's the thing. So it's just very unclear, and I'm very frustrated about how we're into round 14 and we aren't clear about whether the problem is the players or the coach. And when right now we should be in contention for finals, and even contending for a premiership. So just before we move on to any lines and any potential inclusions, Daffy Boy, we'll just touch on a few names that might be brought back into the side this week. So, of course, Nick Newman is expected to come back this week. I think he's back to full training this week, so he's a test for this week, of course. George Hewitt is all but a lock to come back into the team this week. Of course, concussion last week. He was expected to come back last week, but of course he had an extra week off just because of that really bad hit. Probably a little bit of precautionary, so I think they just went the safe way and gave George Hewitt the extra week. So he should be available. Mark Pitnet with his hand injury, I reckon he should 100% be a lock for this week. He was even brought in last week, but he was, of course, a laid out for Jack Silvani last week, so he should be brought in. Jack Carroll back into full training this week. I think he will be available, but I assume he would come back into the VFL, try and find some form, and maybe we might see him in the senior side towards the end of the season. Sam Durden is back into full training, which is a guy that that might be a potential inclusion for one of our key defenders, Duffy Boy. And of course, our last one, Caleb Marchbank, ankle soreness, he'll be available after the bye. So I think that's a bit more of a managed sort of injury, just because he's been smashed with injuries, and it might not be extremely serious, but it's just a bit of a precautionary as well. So out of those names, Duffy Boy, who do you think, just to touch on a few, is there any names that are pretty much a lock for you to come back into the side, and how important would they be if you were to bring it back in?
Yeah, there's obviously 3 names there at the top. 4 names. No, three, sorry. With Newman, Hewitt and Pitto, I think they're pretty important for us if we want to actually attack the back end of the year. But for me, I think a lot of it isn't always down to personnel. It's as a team, I think every single player is probably underperforming. So whether you play, bloody Dom McHugh or someone else, it doesn't really matter, because they're all just playing under. They're underperforming. None of them are playing to their level or above. So I think for us, it's more of a team thing, but also individually, just not good enough. But it's good to see Sammy Dirds fit again, because I've been saying the last couple of weeks he would be playing at AFL level. He's pretty unlucky, he's been injured during this time, because I think especially Lewis Young's been under the pump down back there, and especially on the weekend, that was hard to watch at times. So no, it was good to see them back, and Marchie, just the usual soreness.
Oh, isn't that just shocking? Like, I didn't even know about that injury, and then I was kind of hearing some stuff through the week, on the weekend. I was like, no, surely he has another injury. But as I said, I think it's a little bit more precaution, just because it's obviously not extremely bad because it's ankle soreness. So that might
Yep.
be 1 or 2 weaker. But usually, if it's an ankle soreness, he'll be back next week. So I
Yeah.
think they're kind of taking the safe side just because Caleb Marchbank probably won't play for the senior team for probably next month, even if he is to play in the VFL. So I think he just needs to get his body right. I think he needs to have at least a month of football in the VFL, have that time in the VFL, have that confidence in his body to get himself back into the senior side. And if he's performing well enough, to me, he comes straight back in because he was like, even towards the start of the season, I was saying if Marchie's fit, he's almost a lock for our best 22. Like a few years ago, 2018, 2019, he was a lock. And obviously the list is a lot different from there, from then. So, so I think Marchie, just hopefully he can get fit because he's pretty much playing for his career right now. Because if he can't get his body up, like a lot of names out there in our list, I don't think they'll be on the senior side, on the senior list next year. So just a question on Sam Durden before we move on to our potential inclusions. He's back into full training, of course, this week. A bit of a sneak peek for our potential inclusions. Would you bring in Sam Durden this week and take out Lewis Young, Daffy Boy?
No, well, based off kind of past guys coming from injury, unless they're like a Walsh or a higher quality player, they usually give him a week or two in the two. So I think he'll play twos, unfortunately.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, of course, we'll move on. You didn't really give me much of a sneak peek, Daffy Boy. So, we'll move on to the potential inclusions. Daff, you can start us off, mate.
I was keeping a little bit up until my time came here. But now my inclusions for this weekend are Pitto, Cunners, Hewitt and Newman into the side and dropped Jesse Motlop, Matthew Kennedy, Jordan Boyd and Ed Kerno.
Wow.
And the sub will be Paddy Dow.
Yep. Wow.
And okay, I'll just go through the omissions.
Yeah.
Motlop, got to be playing twos. Not good enough currently. Matt Kennedy.
That's a big one.
Talked about it with my brother and my mum the other day. Mum loves him, loves a bit of Bam Bam. Kennedy, but she was saying, she's not usually the type to kind of bag her favourite kind of players, but he has not been good all year at all. I know early he kind of had that wrist thing his calf, sorry. He had that calf thing probably round 2 and 3, calf tightness where he was out for a few weeks, but he just looks like the Kennedy of before 2022. Looks really slow, and that's really showing where our kind of midfield's at the minute in terms of pace.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what he's kind of providing us right now because he was hard of the ball last year, but now he's looking a bit more of a kind of fringe player at the minute.
Yeah,
which I hate to say, but because we did pick him up as a rookie, like we got him and then we re-signed him as a rookie to save his career.
Yeah.
Then he obviously had a great year last year, which led to us re-signing him. But I think he just needs a few weeks in the twos and rack up some touches because I know he can. Jordan Boyd, I'm liking the way he's using the ball by foot, but I just feel like impacting defensively hasn't been good enough.
Yeah.
Especially with the Essendon's kind of smalls and mids rotating through there. He was playing on a few of them, maybe like Menzies and a few of those guys, and it just didn't seem like they really had to impact our small defenders. So he obviously makes way for Newman, and then obviously Ed Kerno. He's been in our omissions probably for the last few weeks, and he's staying around the cockroach, but he can't be killed. But and sub obviously Paddy Dow. I think I like him as a sub, but really not struggle. I don't think we'll struggle there on the weekend. Hopefully not. Fingers crossed. But if we are, just chuck him in there at half time. Stop waiting. What are we waiting for?
Yeah,
we waited too long. I think he needed to come in at half time on the weekend against Essendon because I think we dominated that first half, and we just need a bit more energy heading into that third quarter to really stamp our authority on the game. And we didn't. Comes on in the last quarter, game's already over. So what's really the point of that?
Yeah, completely spot on. I'll just quickly touch on my ends. Mine will be the exact same. Cunners, Newman, Pitnet, and George Hewitt are all in for mine. Very stiff on Dow because I reckon if Hewitt wasn't fit, we don't know if he's going to come in 100%.
Yep.
But I think George Hewitt is an absolute lock if he was to come back in. And very stiff on Dow just because I think he was quite solid last week. He had a bit of that little bit of ignition, I guess, where he kind of was igniting the club in the team in a sense. And he was playing for his life. Like he had that mentality where he was willing to put his body on the line because he knew that if he didn't, that contest, he may have been out the next week and never seen in navy blue again. So he's pretty much playing for his AFL career. So I like that about him. If he's not sub and Ed Kerno is sub this week, I don't know what I'm going to do about the club. So I think Paddy Dow is a lock if George Hewitt was to come in. So if George Hewitt isn't in, I reckon Paddy Dow has to stay in because. But my outs were a little bit different. So Jesse Motlop, completely agree. Ed Kerno, completely agree. But my last two were a little bit different. So I'm dropping Mitch McGovern. I'm just over it. I'm just about over him not having much impact. Yes, he might have the odd kick where he kind of changes the angles, but he doesn't do it enough. He gets enough of the footy, but he doesn't have enough impact with the football, and that's his role. He's that intercepting defender, and he needs to do more with his disposal. And I just think that he's just not impacting the contest enough, especially for an experienced player. We spoke actually on the weekend about how he's only played his 100th game and he's been around in the AFL system for a very long time. So whether that was down to Adelaide not really playing him much as a rookie, and then when he came over to us, he's been very injury prone. So I'm just about over Mitch McGovern. So I think he's going to be omitted this week if I was the coach. And of course, my last one, Jack Silvani. I don't think if Pitnet was to come in, I don't think Silvani keeps his spot. And whether you play Silvani as a sub, I'm not too sure. I don't think Silvani will keep his spot if Pitnet, TDK are both in. Just because I think, especially with Jack Martin, he was quite solid last week, and I hope he stays in again because I think he had a bit of impact, especially when he was in the forward line. You were say something, Daffy Boy? Sorry.
No, he was really good. I thought Jack Martin was good. I think obviously we had to bring him off because he's on managed minutes, but I wish he actually stayed on a little bit more because he was looking good, and we've been saying it for so long. He just needs to get out on the park, Jack Martin.
Yeah.
So if he can put together 10 weeks uninterrupted, can really build into next year strong.
Yeah, completely agree. And he is that guy that has the potential to be that Fritsch role because we've been crying out for this all year. Even when we started playing shit, we've been crying out for this all year where we need that mid-forward role. And we might just quickly just touch on it, actually. So, of course, we're kind of transitioning into next year and what we might bring in. Of course, we will touch on all that with trade period and stuff. But Jay Gresham is a bit of a player that might come into the side, and whether that is a player that might come in as that maybe that Fritsch role, I think he's a little bit smaller than that. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens with what we do with this forward line, whether it's we play those three small forwards as those fleas and Gresham in as that mid-forward role. I'm not too sure. But yeah, I think it was Sam McClure that reported it and saying that he's very likely to join the club next year for season 2024. So, of course, we'll just touch on the lines for the preview. So, of course, to start off with the back line, it's our defenders up against Gold Coast key forwards. So, of course, it's Ben King and very up and coming, very good key forward. So I rate him very highly. Jack Lukosius as well is a guy that's kind of been shifted a lot around his career. He's been a bit in the back line, a bit in the forward line, and of course in the wing. So I think he's finally found his home in the forward line. And of course, the big man, the guy that's a former Blue, a former cult hero, of course, Levi Casbolt is down there. So expecting Jacob Wiedering and also Lewis Young to stay in. And also some small defenders down there up against their small forwards, just to name a few. I think a Nick Holman comes to mind as well. Of course, a former Blue. But Daffy Boy, who do you think might go to these sorts of players, especially since they have quite a few tall forwards down there, with also Wits maybe going down there to rest as that forward ruck?
Yeah, it's. I'll start off on Levi. He's. I think he was, obviously I called Ed Kerno the cockroach before. He just can't be killed off. I think Casbolt was like that for about 5 or 6 years, but I was talking about it the other day. Gee, I would die for him right now as that second ruck.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Oh, my. Like, it was almost I hate to say it, but you look at it now and we almost got a little bit ahead of ourselves in terms of TDK's development. And you go him and Pitto, you go Pitto in the ruck, and Casbolt can play forward. And he
Yeah.
can go on the ruck. And he was a good ruckman.
Yeah.
Oh, he'd be he's a great get for the Gold Coast, in my opinion. I think he was, obviously King was out last year, and it was him and Chol running amok up there. So obviously Chol's been in kind of not great form, and he's been playing twos. So it's been very, very interesting. But for me, I think matchups will be very interesting. I think Casbolt probably Weeders with Casbolt, and then King with Young, and it's going to be a big, big performance from Youngie if he wants to keep his spot.
Yeah.
He's going to have to keep King to nothing, or just little impact. It's going to be hard to keep him to nothing. And the coaches, I'd imagine, based off your omissions, it probably have to be Kemp. I think it will be Kemp as well. So, and like you say, they've got those guys running through like Holman and another ex-Blue, and a few other guys. Like they've always got these makeshift midfielders that just go forward, and it's like, who the hell are these blokes? And they're kicking goals. Alex Sexton, he never plays it. He's always in and out of the team, but he always kicks 6 when he's in the team, and he gets dropped somehow. I actually rate him very highly, and I think we talked a few years ago coming in as a small forward. So, no, it's a big, big opportunity for our defenders, and being able to, bounce back from not a great defensive display. I know, Essendon didn't score that much really, but, I think wasn't their greatest display, especially in that third quarter.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially in that third quarter. Well, that's probably the one lapse, I guess, that came to mind where we just allowed them to kick. I think it was 4 goals straight in that third quarter. Maybe 5. Like, just unbelievable. 6 in wait, so 6 straight. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I don't know if it was straight, but they kicked 6, definitely.
Yeah, so 6 in that third quarter.
Yep.
See, that's what we used to do last year, but attacking it. So we used to kick 5 or 6 goals a quarter. That's what's been missing this year.
Yeah.
And you touch on there about the midfielders that's kind of gone forward, and I think Ainsworth is another one who's been really good this year. Yep. So I think he's probably one of the guys down there that can transition forward. But as you said, ever since they lost Rankin, they haven't really gotten a small forward, a genuine small forward down there. So, and they've been doing pretty well with just the twin towers, or should I say triple towers down there. So I think it's pretty good. But so just a question before we move on to the midfield. Who do you think? I mean, assuming the 2 key forwards down there that our key backs will go to, Young and Weeders, who goes to King and who goes to Casbolt? Because they're both very similar, but both very different as well. So who do you think will take Casbolt, and who do you think will take King?
Yeah, Weeders to Casbolt, and then obviously Youngie to King, I think. They're kind of similar size, him and Youngie, I think. Obviously, Youngie's a lighter frame, and obviously I can't watch Young on Casbolt. Yeah. Just size-wise, you'll throw him around like a rag doll. So I think Wiedering will take Rock the Casbolt.
Yep, spot on. So we'll move on to the midfield, of course. As we do every single week, we touch on 3 midfielders from our end and 3 midfielders from the Gold Coast end. So, of course, our midfielders who need to step up this week, my word. And actually, before we move on to anything else, there's been a bit of a rumour through the club about Patrick Cripps, about a potential injury. I don't know if you've seen it, Daffy Boy, but I saw this rumour on this page, and I don't know if it's absolute BS or not, but apparently Patrick Cripps has been playing with an ankle brace, and he's been playing it ever since the Sydney game when he injured his ankle, and he hasn't, and he's played with an ankle brace since then. So if that is true, there's no proof, there's no reporting from any legit journalists. It's just rumours, and that's why he's been performing very badly. Daff, what's your thoughts on that before we touch on the midfield?
You're playing with, if you're out there, you're good enough to play. Yeah. Simple as that. Just play well, Cripps. Stop giving him excuses.
Yeah, spot on. I completely agree. No, but that's the thing. Like and if he's choosing to go out there and say, "No, I'm good enough" with a ankle fucking brace, then no. But seriously, that's when we say no. We're not accepting that. So of course our midfield, Patrick Cripps, Sam Walsh, God, he needs to step up this week. Adam Chera, who has been Mr. Consistent, by far our best player for the season, up against Matty Rowell, who's had a super season this year. alongside Noah Anderson, who also has had a great season as well, and also Braden Fiorini, a guy that we were in talks with a couple of years ago, of course. But yeah, they are three pretty good midfielders from their end. And just to name a few, also at Davies as well, and also at David Swallow, that might go through. But I think he's injured, actually, Swallow. So I don't think he's going to play. But I'm not too sure about that. But yeah, from their midfielders and also from our midfielders as well, Daffy Boy, who goes to who? And from their end, who's the big threat?
I think matchups isn't our issue. I think it's the way we use getting the ball's not our issue at all. Yeah. Any week of this season, which is why it's so frustrating. I think it's more their impact because I know everyone goes, numbers are numbers, but Jesus, Walsh's numbers on the weekend were not actually too bad. 15 kicks, 20 handballs, like Jesus Christ. But then his meters gained 355. So that just shows you. But obviously 35 is pretty decent. He just needs to start to, impact the scoreboard and impact going forward. I just feel like we're too happy to go back. And I think it starts with our leaders. Sam Doherty especially. His reflex motion is to go backwards, which is unbelievable. But with their midfield, I think Matty Rowell and Anderson are the perfect duo for the Suns. They'll be there forever. I don't see them moving. They're best mates, and I think it's a perfect package. I like watching the Suns. Yeah, I actually like watching the Suns when they're going. They've started to win some games they were losing last year. Sometimes they put a 3/4 effort in and die out in the last, but they've won a few good games. Obviously, winning the last two, the Dogs and Adelaide over in Darwin. So 2 big wins for them, and another big match for them. This really can get them going because I think they had the bye last week. They can get above some teams and almost get to the 8.
Yeah,
we're talking Gold Coast in the 8, which is good for the competition in my opinion. But hopefully they have a little bit of a hiccup this weekend.
Yeah, completely spot on. So, of course, Gold Coast right now are placed 11th on the ladder, but, of course, they're equal with Fremantle and Geelong on points, but their percentage is not great. So they're 100 on the dot. And if they win, they go 9th, but if they win by a lot, so Western Bulldogs, of course, is 28 points, but they have 101%. So they'll most likely, if they win on the weekend, they'll most likely go above Western Bulldogs. And I think Dogs are playing North Melbourne. So whether that's going to be a win, I'm not too sure. But yeah, so it is a big game for Gold Coast as well, because of course if they don't want to let this one go either, because this is very much like a winnable game from their end, but also we don't want this, because seriously, I think this if it goes bad this match and we find a way to lose it, this is going to have big I guess just. I don't even know. Just it will result into something very, very poorly and something that's going to result in very bad stuff and very bad things for the club. Of course, now we'll move on to the ruck battle. So, of course, this week we expect Pitnet to be back this week. So, Pitnet and Tom De Koning up against Witt, who has been a little bit underrated, I reckon, this season. I think he's been behind, I think, a Tim English, who's been by far the best ruckman in the comp, but also he's probably on the same level as Sean Darcy in terms of form. I reckon he's still had quite a consistent season. So, and of course up against Levi Casbolt as the other second ruck. But even like a Caleb Graham, who might even come in for that if we were to be to go into the game with Pitnet and 10EK, maybe they bring in Graham to kind of match that size. But I think Casbolt is still very much a solid second ruck, as we mentioned before. But Daffy Boy, with this ruck battle, what do you see happening? Of course, with Jared Witts, he's a very capable ruckman. What's his strengths? And what do you think we need to try and stop from his end?
His hit-out work is by far probably the best in the league. He'd be up there with his hit-out work. Obviously, English is more of that kind of midfield ruck type, but I feel like with Witts, his hit-out numbers are superb. The fact that he used to play for Collingwood, the amount of rucks they've produced over the years. So, no, I think with Witts, I think he's, like you said, he's underrated. I've always rated him pretty highly. He's a perfect leader for them. He is the captain, isn't he?
Yeah.
He is the captain. And I think he's really good. It's going to be a tough task for Pito and TDK. Hopefully Pito gets up, because I think that'll be a good matchup. and those two going at it, especially hit outs wise. And then TDK can obviously take on the cockroach Casbolt. But no, I think, no, like I was saying before, obviously Levi's ruck work is pretty good around the ground as well. So we can't really take that lightly. But once again, another opportunity for TDK. Although I think he will be out the door at the end of the year. I think it's a big game. And, I was reading comments going, oh, the season's over and it doesn't matter. But it does still matter. As a Carlton supporter, you want to see this team win and show us something. So there's 10 more games. You can't be giving up yet.
Yeah.
You can't be giving up yet. So, no, but I think, Witts is probably going to win the hit-out numbers, but I think it's bet our midfielders at the fall of the ball.
Yeah, completely spot on. I think with Pitnet and Witts, they're very much the same ruckman, aren't they? Because I think with Pitnet, he's very much I know that his strength is his hit-out work, and he's probably been one of the best in the competition when he actually gets out on the park. So I think it's going to be a really good contest from that sense from Pitnet and Witts, but even TDK and Casbolt. I think TDK is definitely a more agile ruckman, but I think Casbolt can also be that stay at home, like try and stay on the ground and actually use his body. I think Casbolt will very much be used as when they throw it in and that sort of battle because he can actually outbody him. But yeah, I think from a Witts sense, so he's of course the co-captain to I think Tuke Miller. I think Tuke Miller is still the co-captain, but yeah, I think even when Tuke Miller comes back in, I think Witts is still acts like that captain because I know how with co-captains they kind of still have that bit more of a leader. I think Witts has kind of been around Gold Coast. I don't know how many years it's been now, but he's been there for a very long time. So I think he's been very much a loyal player for Gold Coast because, of course, when they first started, he was there from either 2011, if not very, very early in their career in the AFL. So, of course, now we move on to the forward line. Once again, Harry Mackay's seeming to find his confidence back, and Charlie Curnow needs to, once again, find a way to lift this week because last week he was quite disappointing and he could have had a big night if his conversion, once again, was a little bit better. And, of course, they're coming up against Collins, who I still rate very highly. I still think he's I think it's just because they play for Gold Coast. That's the thing. Like, they have so many great players. And to actually be serious, I think Rao, even to touch on the midfield again, Rao and Anderson, they are fantastic players and they still don't get enough talk about them just because they're out in Gold Coast and they're still very much capable. And I think even when we touched on the start of the year, I think you chose Tuke Miller as your Brownlow medalist. And I think even if he was playing for Collingwood or Carlton, he would be talked about daily. And even even with his injury, no one's really talking about Tuke Miller and his injury. So of course to touch on the forward line, Harry Mackay and Charlie Curnow coming up against Collins and Ballard. And Ballard is a very much a young up and coming defender. He plays a lot like Marchbank. He's probably the one guy that you kind of think about. He plays a lot like Marchbank. So of course he's kept himself out on the park. So with this matchup, Harry Mackay and Charlie Curnow up against Sam Collins and Ballard. How do you see this matchup playing out?
I forgot how Marchbank plays. He hasn't been on the park for that long, but I agree with Collins. I think Ballard's good as well. I think Collins is that kind of bigger body. Just simplifies it. Simple defense. He takes his marks, doesn't try to take too much on. Gives it to his runners down back, whether it's Brandon Ellis or these other guys that come through. Like I said, those Gold Coast players that pop up out of nowhere and win them the game and you don't know who they are. It's so weird. I think the Gold Coast, it actually works for them, I think, with the people not knowing some players in terms of how good they really are. I think with Rowell and Anderson, they're just flying under the radar, which is helping. Because I feel like with a club like Carlton, you can't get away with anything. All like whether you're 18 years old or 37 years old, you can't get away with anything. But once again, you look at these names, Jesus Christ, they should be getting it done, really. But I feel like with the Gold Coast, we struggle even last year against them early on. They were the one team that really will beat us early on in the year. Them and who else beat us early in the year?
Fremantle.
Yes, them and Fremantle early. But I just feel like, they just had our number that game. And I just, there's something about them that doesn't make it enjoyable to play against. I don't know why, but yeah, like you said with Harry and Charlie, it's all about conversion and just giving them the opportunity as well for our midfielders. Just hit them, please. And I want to see some structure where one of them's deep.
Yeah.
Like realistically, if we were smart, Mackay on Zerk Thatcher on the weekend, put him in the goal square. Put him in the goal square.
Yeah.
Like just don't even go up the ground. Isolate him time.
Yeah.
Which could have been done, wasn't done.
Yeah.
And that's on coaching too. So
yeah.
Pressure is on them too. Like whether you say the forward coach, Vossi's the big dog. He can make a choice and go put him in the goal square.
Yeah.
Whether they like it or not. But and a big occasion for the big Harry's 100th game.
Yeah.
And I think he's had a pretty good first 100 games. He's a Coal medalist. How many people are Coal medalists before their 100th game?
Yeah.
Not many.
Not many.
And he cops a lot of flack, but he's had a pretty good 100 games for my liking.
Yeah, completely spot on. Especially with Harry Mackay, he's won a Coleman, and I think he won it when he was 23, but he's 25 now, so he's still got a hell of a lot of his career ahead of him. To just quickly touch on Harry Mackay's 100th game. I know this is a bit tough because it's a bit off the top of our heads, but if you were to name one moment from Harry Mackay, one of the moments that has made him the key forward that has made him himself today, with all of his moments that he's had, what's the one moment that you would say from his end has been his milestone moment that's turned him into a genuine key forward?
I think for mine, it was in 2019 when we versed the Dogs and he kicked 5 at Marvel. And I think that was, obviously we were 0-4. And he was just taking marks everywhere. And it was like me personally, before he even played his first game, he was playing in the VFL. I was saying, get him in. Like I was like, so many people going, like, who is this guy? I was just like, this guy is good. Trust me. Now, sometimes with those players, they don't turn out to be the way they are. Yeah. But that game where he just turned it on and just goes, yes, like I put so much time into this guy. Yeah. There's so much trust into this man. And that was a good game as well. I know we weren't very good that year, but like I say, mate, like we're round 14. I'm telling you, if we win this week, I'm telling you that crowd will be, rocking. I'm telling you, because there's nothing better than a win, whether you're bottom or top, like I said last week. And hopefully they can get up for his 100th, because the last few milestone games haven't been fantastic.
Completely spot on. Of course, I've just gone back to that game, of course, in 2019. So, of course, Harry Mackay was a leading goal kicker with 4 goals, 3. And the next person behind him, the next leading goal scorer, was, of course, the one and only Levi Casbolt. So, so he kicked 3 goals.
He popped one. Remember he popped one from about 50 on the pocket? Yeah. And he hit the fence. He banged the fence. I could hear the fence from the other side of the ground.
Yeah. Oh, unbelievable. There were some times with Levi that he just would produce one of the greatest moments. And when he was like 60 meters out, he would kick an absolute banana. And I'll be like, what are you doing? And then he'll somehow find a way to get that in. Sorry, you go.
What's your favourite Harry Mackay moment?
Oh, I reckon the one moment that probably comes to mind is probably the moment that kind of put his name on the map, and that was 2021 against Fremantle round 3 when he kicked 7. I know a lot of people would say that, but that was probably, I would completely agree with you with Harry Mackay when he kicked, because he kicked 4 goals, 3, but he had 20 touches. He had a lot of he had a lot of the ball as well. So. But I think the one against Fremantle, that was just a freakish game.
7 goals, 5.
7 goals, 5, was it? So he could have kicked 12. Well, that's what I'm saying.
That's a story of his career currently. It is, unfortunately. But if he gets enough goes at it, he'll kick a bag. He'll kick a bag.
100%. But then that's what I'm saying. Like, you can still pretty much be saying like 7 goals. That's pretty good in there. Modern game of AFL football, but you don't really see 12 goals as often, but you also don't see 7 goals as often either. So, but yeah, Harry Mackay, absolute privilege to kind of have him and on our list and to call him our key forward alongside Charlie Curnow. It's pretty mouth-watering to kind of think about it from our sense as supporters, because we've been privileged to kind of see these guys grow up, because this is kind of two guys that we saw because we are quite young supporters that we genuinely invested into our club 2015, 2016. And this is when we saw these guys come through and it's just been great and credit to them because also like you can be drafted highly, you can be drafted into AFL football, but as soon as you get the opportunity, it's up to you if you want to make a career out of it. And these two have well and truly done that. So of course, now to touch on our last segment, of course, match predictions. It's a bit of a different between boy. I don't know why from my end. I don't know about you, but my feeling's a little bit different. So, of course, you can go first. So I'll get your best on ground, your point of difference, and your winner plus margin.
Okay. Best on ground, the guy we're just talking about. I want Big Harry to kick 7 on his 100th game in a sunny MCG day, snapping it from everywhere, popping it from 60. And he's letting everyone know, fuck you, I'm Harry Mackay. He'll be best on ground. Point of difference, it's going to be David Cunningham for me. I think he's someone we need up forward and also in the midfield. He fills 2 holes in a sense.
Yeah.
He's got like pace. We're lacking pace currently, and it's annoying. I hate being a slow team because we were quite fast last year. Yeah. So he'll be my point of difference, and the winner plus margin. I've got Carlton by 47 points.
47.
I said, we've been talking about it, both of us. Conversion has been an issue. This week it changes, and we're going to kick 17 goals, 3 or 4, all right? The MCG. And the Suns, Stewie Jew, will be off on his first flight back to the fucking sunny Gold Coast, all right?
So my one question to that is, what have you seen in the past 10 weeks that has made you think that the conversion will change in 1 week and see it on Sunday at 1:10 DAF?
No, I've heard some rumours that Ash Hansen took the boys down to the park the other day and they had to kick 100 shots in a row before they fucked off. So they finished at about 4 a.m. So they finally kicked 100 in a row. They finally kicked 100 in a row. So no, seriously, I think it turns this week and we beat up on the Goldie at the G.
Yeah, but that's exactly what it is like Gold Coast is stepping into our territory. That's the thing. They don't play at the G. They haven't played at the G all year. They don't play at it often, and they've never played against us at the G. So this is like, act like it's our territory, and we send them back to their territory. That's what it is. I want them to treat it like that. But yeah, I actually kind of can agree with you in some sense because we're kicking 6 goals, 16. So if we can just switch that around and have 16-6, and that's what we saw last year. We were so accurate in front of goal. And yeah, that's just the one thing that I can really put my finger on it is just conversion and just pressure in front of goal. But yeah, I'll touch on my match predictions very quickly. So best on ground, I've gone Jacob Wiedering. I think, that's a bit of a different one, I think. But I think, especially up against the King, I think I'm going to be very nervous. But also, he might also go against Casbolt, as we touched on earlier in the episode. He might switch, but even if he does go to one of them, I want him to stay on that one forward and keep him goalless. Don't give him a sniff at the footy. Just keep on this one player, staying in for the whole game because they shift and they much, I think. And I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan.
No.
So I just think that Wiedering has to, whoever Voss chooses, he needs to say, Wiedering, you're going to go to this guy. You lock him down. You do not let him touch the football. Don't let him have a goal. And if he kicks a goal, I would much rather have Casbolt kick 1 goal than have him absolutely dominate and kick 3 or 4. So point of difference, completely agree with you, David Cunningham. I think he's the big guy that last year we still had the pace, but of course he didn't play at all last year. But we've just very much been missing his, I guess, just football IQ. Even on the VFL on the weekend, I was seeing some highlights and I was watching the first 3 quarters and he just he's fine stuff in there. And he seems that he had 27 touches on the weekend in the VFL, but it seemed like he almost had 40. His game was that good. So he was by far the best player on the ground. So it's just football IQ. He likes to look into the corridor, and find some stuff rather than just kind of just go back to 17 and long and deep, just kind of try and find a way to get it in so that key forwards can have an easy shot. But win past margin, Daffy boy. So I have said from day dot, ever since we started playing shit, I want them to prove us wrong. I want them to go out there on game day and show us that you can play good football. Last week we didn't see it. So my winner past margin. I've got the Carlton Blues by 20 points. I've got the Blue Baggers. This is the game that it's only 20 points. You put 90 points there. I should probably put 90 points there. But 20 points, routine win, get the confidence up against a good side in Gold Coast. We aren't going into this match being disrespecting the opponent. We never do. Gold Coast are a very good side. I think we are favourites right now. I don't know if that will change on Sunday, but right now we are favourites. So realistically, we should win. That's the thing. So I'm just not too sure how we are favourites, but there must be something that the AFL community must see in the Carlton Football Club, that this is the week. But we've been saying it for so long, for so many weeks. We just need to see a change. And I don't know if this is just going to be a one-off where we win by 20 or 25. Then the next week after the bye, we're shit against Hawthorn. I'm not too sure. We can't predict the future. But I don't know. I just am looking forward to once again seeing the Blues on Sunday, Arvo at 1:10 at the FCG in front of let's hope we get a big crowd. That's
I think it will be. No, I'm backing in. I'm backing in a 45-50. I'm backing in. I think I know a lot of people, and fair enough. Like, we've had talks about why the hell am I going? But I think people go, we'll be there. Yeah. We'll be there and we'll back him in. I think that's a statement. Like Paul from Blue Abroad tweeted out. He said, I know people want to boycott it, but what kind of message does that send?
Yeah.
I think a message is more getting 50-60. Yeah. Imagine how good that'd be. All of us at the G, no Gold Coast fans. It's like a fortress. It'd just be us. Yeah. Moaning when we kick 6 goals, 17.
Yep.
But, no. I think we win this week. I think the tide turns a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, completely spot on. And even when, like, you sent me that tweet, I was just like, I completely agree because, yes, we're kind of expecting for Carlton supporters to not really show up just because it is a game against Gold Coast, but also it's a game against Gold Coast. They aren't going to bring many supporters anyway. No. So if we could just make it 60,000 at the G, every single Blue Bag, if you are free on Sunday, even if you can leave at halftime, up to you. But if you can just get down there at 1:10 and support these boys, I just don't know, because they might actually be quite worried about that, being worried about 15,000, 20,000, and then they might walk out to a big roar and they might be like, shit, this is going to pump us up. And we've given them so many chances, but that's the thing. We love this club to death and we always wish them the best and we always just hope the best for them. So that's just why I just want to see a lot of Carlton supporters down there. I know you're going to be there. I know I'm going to be there. We're always going to be there every single week. And we completely understand why Carlton supporters don't want to go, because they just don't want to waste their money. Completely understand, but we just can't turn away. And unfortunately, it's like a disease. It's like an addiction where we just can't turn away from this club. So, of course, for the episode, that is it. So, Duffy boy, is there anything else you want to touch on for the episode before we wrap it up?
We're addicted to pain. We are addicted to pain. That's all I'm going to say. That is all I'm going to say.
Completely spot on. Well said. Short and sharp. Completely love it. Completely spot on. So, of course, to all the Blue Baggers out there, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. We try and say it every single week to try and back these players in. I know it's very tough to back them in, but of course, it's just for the love of the navy blue. It's for the monogram. Every single time that I kind of pass, whether it's a car with a car sticker on it, whether it's a person like a hat like you're wearing right now, Daffy boy, with a hat with a monogram, just anyone who kind of just showcases the navy blue. It makes me proud to be a supporter. And it's just a small thing where I just want us to be successful. And we say it towards the end of every single episode. We always say it. We just want the very best for these players, and they deserve it. And we deserve it. Like, the supporters deserve it so much because we put our hard-earned money towards a club. Well, they deserve it more than, of course, us supporters, because the Carlton Football Club is so much more than this. Like, we need to bring Carlton back to where they were, and that's us being the powerhouse of Australian rules football. That's what it is. Like, we need to try and get back to that. So, yeah, so make sure to all their viewers and all the listeners on Spotify and whatever podcast platform you're listening on, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, try and share the channel around. And to you, Duffy Boy, and to all the blue baggers out there,
Up the baggers.
baggers.